Oh, well, hello there, you sneaky little gaffer. I have not seen you for a while. Usually, your usual storyteller, Connor, won't be here today. I'll take his place. Today I have a story about digestion. As you can see, I'm going through my own digestion right now. So, let's get started. Got my book. Teach you about digestion. First you need these reading glasses. Much better. And my reading light. I'm reading in the dark. It's very dark in here. Oh, flashing. That's the wrong one. Oh, there we go. Once upon a time, in a magical land called Woodstock, there was a small boy named Jimmy. Jimmy loved to eat food. He seemed to eat food whenever he could. But one day, his mom stopped buying food due to the hard times of the recession. Little Jimmy starved for a few minutes. He then was struck with an idea. He then said to himself, "Why don't I grow my own food to eat?" And that was a very good idea. Jimmy raided his neighbor's garden shed for some tools for the garden. He made a small area into a garden by raking and hoeing and tilling. There's some nice dirt there. There was one thing missing from his garden, but he could not think of it at the moment. He said, sure am hungry. Better plant these seeds before I eat them. So he did. He planted his favorite food, Crisco shortening, but he later realized that it would not grow, so he planted some magical corn seeds that he traded his mother's cow for. That was a good idea. The next morning, the magical kernels grew into a mighty stalk of corn with dozens of lush ears of corn on each stalk. Little Jimmy, who was not so little, waddled out to his garden in such haste that he nearly let his cat named Sally outside. She was an indoor cat. They're not allowed outside. Thankfully, Sally had no legs and could not wiggle as fast as Jimmy could run. I was so thankful. Once Jimmy got out to his garden, he picked an ear of the magical corn. He peeled it. Jimmy's eyes were staring at that corn so intently and so vigorously that his mouth started to salivate and he was drooling. He was so hungry. Then Jimmy opened his mouth and took a big bite of the corn while shearing the kernels off the cob with his incisors. He then proceeded to chew the food with his molars and mixing the saliva into the corn with his tongue. Jimmy was just starting digestion. He didn't realize that his body was doing it already. He thought it was just his stomach. Well, Jimmy had something to learn that day. Jimmy's saliva was more than just a weapon against cootie-infected girls, as he used it every day at school. For he didn't like girls. He thought they were gross. Jimmy's saliva contained amylase enzymes that break down starches, like the ones in corn. His saliva also lubricated his food so that it could be swallowed with ease. Once the corn was in his esophagus, it was squeezed into his stomach for further digestion. In his stomach, the muscles mixed the corn with gastric fluids like hydrochloric acid, mucus, and pepsinogens. The hydrochloric acid kills any harmful matter as it enters the stomach and converts the pepsinogens into pepsin. The pepsin will digest the proteins in the bug that was on the corn that Jimmy ate. He must have been really hungry to not notice the bug. Or he likes bugs. The partially digested corn then moved on to Jimmy's small intestine. The majority of the digestion will occur here in his small intestine. You might be wondering how his small intestine is protected against the acids from his stomach. Well, I'll tell you. Well, it all starts with a chemical called secretin. It is converted into secretin when the stomach acid enters the small intestine. The secretin is then absorbed into the bloodstream where it is carried to the pancreas. And the pancreas' secretin signals the release of a solution containing bicarbonate ions into the small intestines. That neutralizes the stomach acid. Now you know. The pancreas also secretes enzymes that will promote digestion of proteins from the bug and the sugars in the corn. Some of the enzymes will further break down the protein into usable amino acids. And if you'd like to learn more about DNA and other amino acids, please check out the Mitosis Variety Show video, starring Connor Burnside, Austin Brooke, Derek Roberts. Pancreas also releases more amylase enzymes to break down the corn sugars into chains of sugar. The small intestines then releases the disaccharidases, an enzyme for digesting disaccharides, and then it further digests them in the carbohydrates for usage for the body. The liver then stores any vitamins from the corn for later use. Since Jimmy has diabetes, his liver has trouble controlling his blood sugar levels, so he needs to take insulin and watch what he eats. His small intestine then does as much absorbing of nutrients as it can, but it could not use the cellulose in the corn, so it continued on to the large intestines. The majority of the corn kernel is cellulose, so it looks the same going in as it does going out, because the body cannot digest those carbohydrate bonds in a plant cell's walls. The cellulose of the corn then collects other waste matter in the large intestine as it moves through. Once the large intestine, full as it can be, the fecal matter collected then triggers a nerve cell. What could this do? Well, this nerve cell tells the brain, oh, it's time for a bowel movement. And this is what it did to Jimmy's brain. Ding, 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 Jimmy, you need to go to the bathroom. So Jimmy did. And like I have been doing for the past while, he sat down on the toilet and got rid of his delicious corn, and that's it. I'll see you next time. Or maybe it'll be Connor. Bye now. That's what diabetes does.